All right, let's just jump right in. We're living in a seriously complicated world, and let's be honest, sometimes it feels, well, impossible to make any sense of it. But what if I told you there's a subject that gives you more than just a bunch of facts? What if it gave you a whole new toolkit for understanding, well, everything, from your own life to massive global events? Today, we're going to unlock the surprising power of sociology. So, to see what I'm talking about, let's go back to a real intense event. April 1992. Los Angeles explodes into flames after the police officers in the Rodney King beating case were acquitted. When you see an image like this, a city burning, what's the very first word that pops into your head?
For a lot of people, the immediate reaction is that it's just mindless, pure destruction. It seems totally random, senseless, with no real point to it at all.
Then you've got the media, right? And officials, they're super quick to slap on the label criminal. The whole story becomes about bad people doing bad things, and the only solution they talk about is more law and order.
And for the rest of us just watching this unfold on our screens, the whole thing is just shocking. It feels like society is literally breaking down in front of our eyes. But are these labels the full story? Not even close. We're going to come back to this, I promise. But first, we need to zoom out a little.
And that question, what's the full story? That's really at the heart of why we study anything. Whenever you're picking a subject, you're actually facing this classic student's dilemma.
See, it usually comes down to two big reasons, right? On one side, you've got the instrumental reason. It's practical. You study to get a good job, to get paid. But on the other side, there's the intrinsic reason. You study just for the love of it, to expand your mind and understand the world better. Now, here's the crazy thing. In today's job market, which is changing so fast, going purely for that practical, instrumental reason can seriously backfire. The specific job you train for today might not even be a thing in 10 years.
I love this quote because it gets at this really fascinating paradox. Think about it. When you decide to master the piano, something you do for the love of it, you end up developing all these other skills, right? Like discipline, creativity, incredible dexterity. And those skills, it turns out, make you surprisingly good at a whole bunch of other practical things you never even aimed for.
And that is exactly where sociology steps onto the stage. It's this amazing subject that perfectly bridges the gap between getting those practical job skills you need and getting those deep, world-changing insights that you crave.
And I mean, just look at this list. These aren't just fuzzy academic skills. In our world, which is just drowning in information, employers are absolutely desperate for people who know how to find stuff out, analyze it, make sense of data, and work with people from all kinds of backgrounds. Sociology literally trains you in every single one of these.
But here's the thing. Sociology offers so much more than just a list of skills for your resume. It offers something way more profound. It's like a new way of seeing the entire world, a concept called the sociological imagination.
This idea comes from a sociologist named Wright Mills, and it's a game changer. It's basically the ability to connect what's happening in your own personal life, your private troubles, your stress, your problems, to the much bigger social and historical forces that are swirling around you. It's about seeing how your own story fits into a much larger picture.
Okay, let's actually walk through this. How does it work? Let's say your private trouble is, I just can't find a job. Your first instinct might be to blame yourself, but the sociological imagination pushes you to ask a bigger question. Wait a minute. Are a lot of other people in my town or in my industry struggling too? And just like that, you've connected your personal problem to a much bigger public issue, like major economic shifts. You just used your new toolkit.
Okay, so now we've got this powerful new tool in our hands. Let's go back to LA in 1992. How can this idea of a sociological imagination help us make sense of that burning city?
Because now, armed with this new way of seeing, we can just toss out those simple one-word labels like mindless or criminal. A sociologist knows there's always a deeper story, and they start by asking much, much better questions.
This is where a sociologist really rolls up their sleeves. They start asking totally different kinds of questions, like what were the economic conditions leading up to this? Was there a history of racism with the police department? How are different communities, Black, Latino, Korean American, experiencing this? When you start asking these kinds of questions, you begin to see this complex web of causes, not just a simple, shocking event.
And look, to answer these big questions, sociologists aren't just sitting in an armchair guessing. They have this whole toolkit of research methods. They dig through documents and police stats to figure out who was actually involved. They go out and interview people to understand what they were thinking and feeling. They might even do something called ethnography, actually living in a community to get a deep understanding of what life is really like there.
But here's something absolutely crucial to remember. After you've gathered all this data, all these facts, you're not done. Because facts never ever speak for themselves. They always have to be interpreted to mean anything.
And this is where you see just how powerful the ideas behind the facts really are. The label you use changes everything. Was it a criminal riot? That suggests the problem is just a few bad individuals. Or was it an urban uprising? That suggests it was a collective response to huge systemic problems like poverty and racism. The facts might be the same, but the frame you use to understand them leads to totally different conclusions about what happened and why.
So this ability to re-examine everything, to question the labels, that's the real power here. And it's not just about understanding big events out there in the world. It's about re-examining your own life and your own assumptions about how things work.
So, at the end of the day, what's in this sociological toolkit for you? It's about challenging so-called common sense. It's about understanding yourself in a deeper way, and it gives you a powerful framework for seeing how massive social change actually happens. You know, Karl Marx famously said the point isn't just to interpret the world, the point is to change it. Sociology gives you the tools to do both.
And that, of course, brings it all right back to you, to your life. So think for a second about a stress, a frustration, a challenge you're facing right now. Now ask yourself, how might that be connected to a bigger public issue? What private trouble of yours needs a sociological imagination? Now that's a question really worth thinking about.